now are going to select Victor Wembanyama. I mean, he's a lock at number one. Greatest prospect by many ever in any sport. He is the most hyped prospect since LeBron James. Many people think he is a better prospect than LeBron James, and many people are making as crazy of claims as that he will be the best player in the league within the first 3 years, that he'll be the best offensive and defensive player, which is a feat in and of itself. There is a ton and a world of pressure on this kid. And if he can live up to even half of it, I think it's a success. I'm rooting for him. I would love to see it, right? Because no one wants to see greatness more than NBA fans, right? Especially in a league that promotes it so much, and it's such an individual sport in many ways. Yes, basketball is a team sport, but you think of all the stars and the way that they're marketed compared to other sports. NBA is one of the premier sports as far as like individuality when it comes to a player. And Victor Wembanyama has all the tools to reach those heights and be the face of the league for many, many years to come. But if Victor Wembanyama is going to be anywhere close to what he's projected to be within the next, 3 to 5 years, the real question is, do the Spurs expedite this rebuild and go into contention immediately? Now, I have no doubts that San Antonio will do whatever is necessary in order to reach contention. They're going to want to have as success as much with this kid as he's going to want to have, right? But San Antonio is, bottom of the barrel team right now. Victor Wembanyama, even if he's great, probably still not a playoff team as currently standing, unless he is just insanely good. But regardless, he's going to need help. And look, San Antonio has some really nice pieces for a young team that could grow and develop under the San Antonio Spurs. Greg Popovich, he can turn water into wine. He's fantastic. They have like Zohan. They have Keldon Johnson. Trey Jones is a guy that could develop into a really solid point guard. He already has his moments. Vassell is I think, a great sort of vacuum scorer at times. Zach Collins, I think, is a great rotation big. They have several pieces that I think could be really nice to kind of start building and molding this team. But also, when you're talking about big men, especially with his frame, his size, how long is he going to really be in the NBA? Guys like him and his build very likely aren't going to be like LeBron James and playing 20 plus years at an elite high level and arguably one of the 5 best players on the planet. Now, maybe he could develop into that and be that guy, but realistically, you're probably looking at 10 to maybe 15 years of him being great. And in that time, he's going to need time to develop, to get into that championship leader mode, right? So really his window for being arguably the best player on the planet, or definitively the best player on the planet, will probably be somewhere in like the 10 to maybe, if it is 2 or 3 years before he has that argument, probably 10 to 12 years. And in that time, you're talking, you want to win not 1 or 2 championships, you want to win multiple championships. And if he does immediately kick off and start to the races, then that would be even huge. Now, you're not going to be able to build a contention team overnight, right? It's going to take probably 2-3 years for them to legitimately build a contending team, especially with the lack of real stars out there to pair with Victor Wembanyama. Spurs have a ton of cap space, and they have a ton of, just flexibility and future flexibility that they can then use to go get other pieces if a star does become available. But reality is that San Antonio is going to have to go and get a guy or two now, maybe a guy or two next season, so on and so forth. And then by like year 3, if he does evolve into that player that many believe he will, now you're ready and you're off to the races. But who do they get now, right? You got like James Harden. My problem is James Harden, I don't really see as a Spurs type player, the kind of guy that Pop likes. James Harden can't keep a coach outside of D'Antoni, apparently. Like, he is arguing and wants every coach fired, and he's a guy that he just doesn't show up in big moments. I think for a regular season, like if you want to win and you want to have some results early on with Victor Wembanyama, I think James Harden makes a lot of sense, right? If like your goal is to like, hey, let's get into the playoffs, right? Then yeah, James Harden could be a very helpful player in that regard. Problem is, once you're in the playoffs, his lack of availability as far as like showing up to games is a real question, is a real hindrance. Plus, he's just older. So where is he 2 or 3 years from now? I don't really think that that's the answer unless you're getting him and then you're going and getting another star and James Harden is kind of like your point guard, right? Like if you were to get James Harden and another piece that could be the scorer alongside Victor Wembanyama, and James Harden is just kind of like your playmaker, giving you, 20 points per game as like a third option, then I think that he makes a lot of sense. Kyrie Irving, he's a free agent, incredible talent. Again, not really a Spurs guy. I don't know if the Spurs would want to touch him, but he is an incredible talent that could really, him and Victor Wembanyama in that two-man game, the big small game. Woo, man, if Victor is anything close to what we think he's going to be, Kyrie and him might be the best scoring duo in the league. It'd be something to see for sure. But again, Kyrie, his lack of leadership, the questions as locker room, media, stuff like that. Is he the kind of guy you want influencing him? On top of that, would he buy in and fit the mold that San Antonio likes and the type of game that they like to play? I don't know. Him and James Harden are kind of like that, big question mark to me. Like the talent's there, especially for Kyrie. Like I would rather have Kyrie than James Harden. But I think like Kyrie, you got to get somebody else, right? And how much does Kyrie buy in? If Kyrie did buy in and he was there to just kind of be the scorer, like if you could get James Harden and Kyrie just focused solely on just being that scorer and being that, that closer while Victor's kind of coming into his own, I think that could really work. James Harden kind of play point guard. Problem is that James Harden wanted to leave the Nets because of Kyrie, so I don't think that would happen. But, just throwing out an example, right? Now, you do have like Chris Middleton. Chris Middleton, I actually think could make a lot of sense as just like a vet guy, a leadership guy, a guy that has, won an NBA championship, has been to the finals. He is a guy that is sort of a more plug and play mold type guy, 3-and-D style wing, has been, the second option on a contending team. He could be a guy that could come in, maybe add some stability. Right, you go get like I said, you get like a Chris Middleton maybe this year, and then you go and you get somebody else next year, and you just start putting the pieces together. Middleton is also only 31, so 2-3 years, you'd imagine that he'd still have something in the tank. Although there are questions about just his injury history, right? Can't really seem to stay healthy at times, but he could be a solid, third option again, where if you have Victor, he's your number one option, you go get a number two option, go get a Chris Middleton, and now you're off to the races contending. I don't think that would be the worst thing in the world, right? I think that he could be a guy that could come in and kind of round everything out. Jeremy Grant is another guy that kind of comes to mind. He again, to me, is more of a third option type of guy rather than a second or first option. But he's 29 years old. 3-and-D style could be great on the wing. It's more so about getting guys that could come in that would fit San Antonio's mold, that would buy into the system, that would play the way that Pop wants them to play. And on top of that, kind of be the beginning building block for the future. It's like, hey, Grant, come here, you and Victor, we'll get some other pieces. Maybe you could even get Jeremy Grant and Chris Middleton. So now you got your 2-guard locked up, your 3-guard locked up, your center or power forward, wherever Pop wants to play Victor. And now you kind of have that. You got your core group intact. And now, next year you're looking, or maybe if a disgruntled star becomes available or something, all of a sudden you're making that push to go get said guy, right? That's kind of my thoughts, because again, my concern is just Victor Wembanyama is an incredible talent, but if you really look at the history of big men, they don't have the success longevity that a LeBron James or a Michael Jordan, a Kobe Bryant, guys like that have, right? How great is Victor going to be at his height? How frequently is he going to be injured? How, is he going to be able to hold up to the NBA? Is he even going to live up to the hype? I mean, there's a lot of question marks, right? And even if he does, let's say he is the best player in the world, undoubtedly, it's not even close in 3 years. Now you have, from that 3-year mark, you have essentially 10 years probably to really be in like contention, most likely, unless, sometimes you just see guys like, did anyone think LeBron James, year 20 at age 38, would still be arguably the best player in the world? Like, no, or at least top 5 best player in the world? Like, probably not. If you would have said that, when he was drafted, or when, even year 10, you would have been like, no, he's going to start declining. He's going to start aging. He's going to be like everyone else. He's not going to be averaging, 30 points a game and, putting up 25, 8 and 8 in the playoffs, like stuff like that. Like, it just, so you never really know, especially with today's age and medicine and technology and stuff. And it's only going to get better as time goes on. So by the time he is 32, we might be so far and away advanced technologically that, he's got robotic knees essentially. So that could be something. But still, in reality, you want to be prepared. And I just think you start the building blocks now. You don't waste too much time. You start putting the pieces in place. Like I said, you go get a Jeremy Grant. You go get some nice young pieces that you think could be solid contributors. Maybe if you could go get another star, you go get another star. Like what would somebody like Trae Young make sense next to Victor Wembanyama with Victor's ability to defend and hold down the interior, right? Because Trae Young is an incredible scorer, great playoff performer, and he leads the league in assists. So you get a guy that could be, that scorer, that assist leader. His real issue is defense, right? He's a liability on the defensive end. But if Victor Wembanyama turns out to be the best defensive player in the league, well, then, you can make up a lot for that. So now you go get a Trae Young. In 3 years, Trae Young's still going to be good enough. He's going to be, turning 30? So, you have him kind of going into his prime. You'd have Victor Wembanyama kind of taking over the league. Again, maybe you go get a Jeremy Grant still to where now he's 32, so he's still kind of in his prime. And you got this kind of core group here that you're starting to put together. Or you just make a big splash, right? Maybe you go trade for Trae Young. And then on top of getting Trae Young, you go and you sign Jeremy Grant, maybe get a Chris Middleton or something, and now you got Trae Young, Middleton, Grant, Victor Wembanyama, and maybe like Zohan or whatever, something like that. Like that could be something that they go that route. But anyway, as always, this is a discussion, so I pass the question on you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. What do you think they should do? Think that go all in? Do you think they stick with the youth movement and just wait for things to develop? Think you get the piece, start building the foundation now? However you feel, whatever your thoughts are, I'd love to hear it. Let me know.